The marble floors of Central Equity Bank gleamed under crystal chandeliers as another ordinary Tuesday morning began. Then the revolving door spun, and a 12-year-old black girl walked in barefoot, wearing a torn brown shirt, clutching a folded piece of paper. The security guard hesitated. The staff whispered. And when Keaton Hale, a millionaire investor, walked past her and laughed at the idea that this child could possibly have an account at his bank, he made a bet that would change his life forever. Because what none of them knew was that the small slip of paper in Amina Carter's trembling hands was about to unlock a secret so dangerous that armed men would storm the building, federal agents would seal every exit, and the truth they'd all been avoiding would finally demand to be heard. Just before we get back to it, I'd love to know where you're watching from today, and if you're enjoying these stories, make sure you're subscribed. The morning sun barely touched the glass towers of downtown when Amina Carter pushed through the heavy revolving door of Central Equity Bank. The lobby stretched before her like a cathedral of wealth. Marble floors gleamed under the light of crystal chandeliers. LED tickers ran along the walls, displaying stock prices that shifted every second. Glass partitions separated the waiting area from rows of teller stations, where bankers in crisp suits processed transactions with practiced efficiency. Amina stood just inside the entrance, her bare feet silent on the cold marble. She wore an oversized brown shirt that hung past her knees, the fabric torn near the shoulder and frayed at the hem. Her hair stuck out in uneven patches, uncombed and matted. She clutched a folded piece of paper in her small hands, holding it carefully as if it might dissolve if she squeezed too hard. The security guard noticed her first. He was a tall man with broad shoulders, his hand moving instinctively to the radio clipped to his belt. He took a step forward, then paused. The girl wasn't moving. She wasn't asking for anything. She just stood there, looking around at the marble and glass like she was trying to figure out where to go. "Hey," the guard said, his voice softer than he intended. "You lost, sweetheart." Amina looked up at him with dark eyes that seemed too old for her face. "No, sir. I'm here for the bank." The guard frowned. He glanced toward the manager's desk, then back at the girl. Before he could decide what to do, movement near the entrance caught his attention. More customers were arriving. He stepped aside, still watching her. Amina walked deeper into the lobby. People turned to stare. A woman in a navy dress pulled her young son closer, wrapping an arm around his shoulders as if poverty might be contagious. Two businessmen near the waiting area whispered to each other, one of them gesturing in her direction with a subtle tilt of his head. Behind a glass partition, a woman with sharp features and perfectly styled black hair looked up from her computer screen. Rachel Mendez, the senior manager, had been reviewing loan applications when she spotted the girl. She set down her pen and stood, her expression shifting from curiosity to annoyance. The bank was already busy. They had 3 VIP clients scheduled for the morning, including one who demanded an entire station to himself. This was not the time for complications. Rachel walked toward the lobby, her heels clicking against the marble. She approached the security guard first. "What's going on?" "Kid just walked in," the guard said. "Says she's here for the bank." Rachel sighed and smoothed the front of her blazer. She walked over to where Amina had joined the line of waiting customers. The girl stood between a man in a gray suit and an elderly woman with a designer handbag. Neither of them looked at her. "Sweetie," Rachel said, her voice carrying the practiced patience of someone who dealt with difficult situations every day. "This isn't a place to warm up. If you're looking for shelter, there's a community center 3 blocks down. They can help you." Amina looked up at her. "I'm not looking for shelter. I'm here to check my account balance." For a moment, Rachel just stared. Then she caught herself and forced a polite smile. "Your account?" "Yes, ma'am." The lobby wasn't loud, but somehow the conversation carried. A hush fell over the waiting area. People stopped scrolling through their phones. The man in the gray suit took a half step away from Amina, as if creating distance might separate him from whatever absurdity was unfolding. Rachel was about to respond when the revolving door spun again. This time, the entire lobby reacted. Keaton Hale entered like a storm front, his presence filling the space before he even spoke. He was a tall man with silver hair combed back from a tan face. His suit was custom-tailored, the kind that cost more than most people earned in a month. Two assistants flanked him, one carrying a leather briefcase, the other typing rapidly on a tablet. "Mr. Hale," Rachel said, abandoning Amina immediately. She crossed the lobby with her hand extended. "Welcome back. We have everything prepared for you." Hale shook her hand without slowing his stride. "Good. Let's make this quick. I have a conference call in an hour." The staff seemed to move in choreographed synchronization. One banker rushed forward with a cup of coffee. Another opened the gate to the private banking area. The security guard straightened his posture. Even the customers in line shifted, craning their necks to catch a glimpse of the man who commanded such attention. Hale walked past Amina without seeing her. His assistant nearly collided with her when she stepped back to let them pass. The folded paper slipped from her fingers and fluttered to the floor, landing near Hale's polished shoe. Amina bent down to pick it up. Hale stepped back sharply, as if she might touch him. "Watch where you're going," he snapped. "Sorry," Amina said quietly. She grabbed the paper and moved out of his way. Hale's assistant, a younger man with slicked hair and a Bluetooth earpiece, laughed. "Maybe put up a sign. No barefoot kids allowed." Hale smirked, but didn't respond. He continued toward the private area, where 3 bankers had already assembled to greet him. Rachel hurried after him, leaving Amina standing alone near the entrance. The lobby returned to its normal rhythm, but slower now. People were still watching. The girl in the torn shirt became a curiosity, a strange detail in an otherwise predictable morning. Amina returned to the line. The man in the gray suit had moved to a different line entirely. The elderly woman pretended to search through her handbag, avoiding eye contact. Near the private banking area, Hale's voice carried across the lobby. He wasn't trying to be loud, but his confidence made every word clear. "The acquisition closes next week. 8 figures, clean transfer. I want confirmation that the liquidity is ready." One of the bankers nodded eagerly. "Absolutely, Mr. Hale. Everything is prepared exactly as you specified." Hale leaned back in his chair, completely at ease. "Good. I don't pay you people to make me wait." Amina watched from the line. She didn't understand why one man needed so many people attending to him. She didn't understand why everyone treated him like he was more important than the other customers. But she stayed quiet, holding her paper, waiting her turn. Rachel returned to the lobby after settling Hale into his private station. She saw Amina still standing in line, and her jaw tightened. This needed to end. "I already told you," Rachel said, her voice firmer now. "This isn't appropriate. You need to leave." "I'm a customer," Amina said. She held out the folded paper. Rachel hesitated. She took the paper and unfolded it. Her expression changed. It was an official Central Equity Bank registration form. Faded, worn at the edges, but legitimate. The girl's name was printed at the top. Amina Carter. Account opened 6 years ago. Rachel's annoyance shifted to confusion. "Where did you get this?" "My mom gave it to me. She said I had an account here." "Your mother opened this?" "Someone helped her. I don't know who." Rachel stared at the form. The account number was listed, along with a date and an official stamp from the bank's registration department. It looked real, but none of this made sense. Behind her, the security guard had moved closer. "Problem?" he asked. "She has paperwork," Rachel said slowly. "She's a registered customer." The guard raised his eyebrows. "So what do we do?" Before Rachel could answer, another voice cut through the conversation. "Let her go next." Everyone turned. Noah Bennett stood near one of the teller stations, his tie slightly loosened, his expression calm. He was younger than most of the bankers, with an easy demeanor that made customers trust him. He gestured toward the counter. "She has documentation. She goes next." Rachel opened her mouth to argue, but Noah was already walking over. He took the registration form from her hands and studied it. "This is legitimate," he said. "If she's a customer, we process her request." From the private area, Hale's voice rose above the murmur of conversation. "Are you serious right now?" Everyone looked. Hale had stood up from his chair and was staring across the lobby at Amina. His assistants flanked him, both watching with amused expressions. Hale walked toward the group, his shoes clicking loudly against the marble. He stopped a few feet away from Amina, looking her up and down with obvious disdain. This is what's holding up my transaction? A kid with an account. Mr. Hale, Rachel began, we're handling this. Hale ignored her. He looked at Amina, then at the paper in Noah's hand, then back at the girl. A slow smile spread across his face. Tell you what, he said, loud enough for the entire lobby to hear. If this kid has more than $50 in that account, I'll eat this tie. Laughter erupted. The assistants laughed. The businessmen near the waiting area laughed. Even some of the bankers smiled, though they tried to hide it. Amina didn't react. She just looked at Hale with those dark, steady eyes. Then she turned to Noah. Can I check my balance now? Noah nodded. Yes. Come with me. He led her to his station, a small desk behind a glass partition. Amina sat in the chair across from him, her feet dangling above the floor. Noah sat down and opened the registration form on his desk. He pulled up the account database on his computer and typed in her name. The system loaded. Noah's fingers hovered over the keyboard as he waited for the information to appear. Behind the glass, the lobby had grown quieter. People were watching. Hale stood near Rachel's desk, arms crossed, still smiling. Noah's screen flickered. A profile appeared. Amina Carter. Date of birth matched. Account number matched. But something was off. Noah leaned closer to the screen. The account was flagged. Not with a normal marker, like insufficient funds or dormancy. This was different. A red banner stretched across the top of the profile. Confidential, Tier 5 access restriction. Noah had worked at Central Equity for 7 years. He had processed accounts for politicians, for executives, for foreign investors. He had never seen a Tier 5 restriction on a minor's account. He had barely seen it at all. He clicked on the account details. Another pop-up appeared. Authorization required. Contact corporate treasury for access. What's wrong? Amina asked. Noah looked up, startled. He forced a smile. Nothing. Just need to verify a few things. Can you tell me your date of birth? Amina recited it. Noah entered it into the system. The same error appeared. Rachel had noticed his hesitation. She walked over and leaned down to look at the screen. Her face went pale. She reached past Noah and closed the tab quickly, as if hiding it might make the problem disappear. Who opened this account for you? Rachel asked sharply. Amina shrugged. My mom said someone helped her. A nice man. I don't remember him. What nice man? What was his name? I don't know. Rachel straightened and exchanged a glance with Noah. This wasn't just unusual. This was a problem. Hale, still watching from across the lobby, sauntered over. He leaned on the counter, separating the teller area from the waiting space, his expression smug. What's the matter, Noah? Afraid she's secretly a billionaire? His assistants laughed again, right on cue. A few customers smiled. Noah ignored him. He opened the account profile again, trying a different approach. The system demanded more information. A high-level authorization code. Something that required approval from corporate headquarters. Rachel pulled out her phone and stepped away, her fingers flying across the screen as she typed an urgent message to her supervisor. Noah looked at Amina. Do you have any other information about this account? Anything your mom told you? Amina thought for a moment. She said to use the long version of my name. The long version? My full name, with all my middle names. Noah blinked. How many middle names do you have? 3. Can you tell me what they are? Amina recited them slowly. They were unusual names, long and specific, with syllables that didn't quite flow together. Noah typed them into the system exactly as she said them. The screen hesitated. Then it unlocked. A new interface appeared. Authorization confirmed. Access granted. The Tier 5 restriction lifted, replaced by a green banner. Account holder verified. Noah exhaled. He clicked on the balance tab. Before it loaded, his computer pinged. A video call request from headquarters. Rachel's phone buzzed at the same time. Noah accepted the call. A stern-looking man in a dark suit appeared on the screen. Behind him, the logo of Central Equity's Treasury Division was visible on the wall. This is Treasury Oversight, the man said. His voice was clipped, official. You are attempting to access a restricted account. Confirm the account holder is present. Noah turned the monitor slightly so the camera faced Amina. She's here. The man on the screen leaned forward. He stared at Amina for a long moment. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Do not proceed without higher clearance. Stand by. The call ended abruptly. Rachel gripped the edge of Noah's desk. This is beyond protocol. What kind of account is this? Noah didn't answer. He was staring at the screen, where Amina's profile remained open. Waiting. Hale had moved closer. His cocky grin had faded slightly, replaced by something closer to suspicion. What kind of scam is this kid running? She's 12, Noah said flatly. Then what's the problem? I don't know yet. The lobby had gone quiet again. Even the LED tickers seemed to move slower. Everyone was watching the small girl in the torn shirt, the girl who had somehow stopped an entire bank with a piece of paper. Amina sat very still in her chair. She looked at Noah. Did I do something wrong? No, Noah said quickly. You didn't do anything wrong. But deep down, he wasn't sure. Something was very wrong. He just didn't know what yet. Rachel's phone buzzed again. A message from headquarters. Override code incoming. Await further instructions. Noah refreshed the screen. A temporary access code appeared in his email, sent directly from the Treasury Division. He entered it into the system. The account profile updated. The loading will spun for what felt like an eternity. And then the balance appeared. Noah's hands froze on the keyboard. His breath caught in his throat. Rachel leaned over his shoulder. She saw the number and stumbled backward, her hand flying to her mouth. Across the lobby, Hale noticed their reactions. His suspicion deepened. He pushed away from the counter and walked toward the desk, ignoring the glass partition. What's going on? Noah couldn't speak. He just stared at the screen. Amina leaned forward, trying to see, is that my balance? The number on the screen was impossible. It couldn't be real. But there it was, displayed in bold black text. $412 million and 92 cents. $412 million and 92 cents. The silence that followed wasn't just quiet. It was absolute. The kind of silence that happens when the world tilts on its axis and no one knows which way is up anymore. Amina blinked. She tilted her head slightly, studying the number. Is that good? Noah opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. Hale saw the screen. His face went white, then red, then white again. He let out a sound that might have been a laugh or a gasp, something strangled and disbelieving. One of his assistants leaned over to see. He swore under his breath, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Rachel backed away from the desk, her hand still pressed to her mouth. Her phone buzzed repeatedly in her hand. Messages from headquarters. Urgent. Priority. The lobby erupted. Not with laughter this time, but with frantic whispers. Customers turned to each other, pointing at the desk. Bankers abandoned their stations to see what was happening. The security guard moved closer, his hand back on his radio. A businessman near the entrance pulled out his phone and started recording. Amina looked up at Noah. Her voice was small, uncertain. Is that enough to fix my mom? Noah stared at her. The question cut through the chaos like a knife. This girl had no idea what she was looking at. She didn't understand wealth. She didn't understand power. She just wanted to help her mother. Hale started laughing. It wasn't the smug, controlled laugh from before. This was something wilder, edged with panic. This child is worth more than my last deal. This kid. His assistants didn't laugh. They looked scared. Rachel's phone rang. She answered it, her voice shaking. Yes. Yes, I see it. No, I don't know how. I'll initiate lockdown immediately. Noah finally found his voice. Amina, do you know where this money came from? She shook her head. My mom said someone put it there. For emergencies. Who? I don't know. Another message flashed across Noah's screen. This one was from the bank's security division. Secure the account holder. Lockdown protocol initiated. Across the lobby, steel shutters began to descend over the windows. The main entrance locked with a heavy metallic click. Armed security personnel emerged from a side door, positioning themselves near the exits. The bank was sealing itself. Hale's laughter died. He looked around, his arrogance replaced by something close to fear. What's happening? Rachel set down her phone. Her hands were trembling. Headquarters has ordered an immediate lockdown. No one leaves until they determine what this account is and why it exists. Hale turned back to Amina. His expression had changed completely. The dismissive cruelty was gone. In its place was something almost like respect. Or fear. He knelt down beside her chair, his voice suddenly soft. "Hey, kid, maybe we got off on the wrong foot. You and I should talk. About investments. About opportunities." Amina looked at him. She stood up from the chair and took a step back. "I don't want opportunities. I just want to help my mom. That's all." Hale reached out, as if to put a reassuring hand on her shoulder, but Amina moved away. She walked back toward Noah's desk, her bare feet silent on the floor. Hale stayed where he was, kneeling on the marble like a man praying. For the first time in decades, Keaton Hale felt something he had almost forgotten: shame. Around them, the bank hummed with locked doors and activated alarms. Outside, black cars were pulling up to the entrance. Inside, a 12-year-old girl stood in a torn shirt, clutching a piece of paper, and waited for someone to tell her if she could save her mother. The world had shifted, and nothing would ever be the same. The steel shutters had sealed the bank into a fortress. Amina stood near Noah's desk, the chaos of the lockdown swirling around her like a storm she couldn't quite understand. Armed security guards moved through the lobby with purpose, their boots echoing against the marble. Customers who had been waiting in line now huddled near the walls, some making frantic phone calls, others demanding to know why they were being held. Rachel stood frozen near the manager's station, her phone pressed to her ear as someone from headquarters shouted instructions. Her face had gone from pale to gray. Every few seconds, she glanced at Amina as if the girl might suddenly disappear, taking this impossible problem with her. Noah remained at his desk, his hands hovering over the keyboard. The number on the screen hadn't changed: $412 million and 92 cents. It glowed there like an accusation, demanding answers no one could provide. Keaton Hale had pulled himself up from the floor, but he hadn't moved far. He stood a few feet away from Amina, his expensive suit suddenly looking rumpled, his silver hair falling across his forehead. His assistants had retreated to a corner, both staring at their phones, their earlier smugness completely erased. The LED tickers on the walls had stopped moving. The building's normal rhythm had been replaced by something urgent and militarized. Red emergency lights pulsed near every exit. Amina turned to Noah. Her voice was quiet, almost lost beneath the noise of radios and shouted commands. "Why did they lock the doors?" Noah didn't know how to answer. He settled for the truth. "They're trying to protect you." "From what?" "From whoever might want to take that money." Amina looked back at the screen. "Can they take it?" "I don't know." Rachel ended her call and walked over quickly, her heels clicking in rapid staccato beats. Headquarters wants her moved to the private treasury office immediately. They're sending a security escort. Noah stood up. "The treasury office? That's on the restricted floor." "I know where it is," Rachel snapped. Her composure was cracking. "They said this is above our clearance level." "Way above." Hale stepped forward. "I'm coming with you." Rachel turned on him. "Absolutely not. This is a confidential matter. I'm a stakeholder-level client of this bank. I have a right to know what's happening under this roof." "You have no rights in this situation, Mr. Hale." Hale pulled out his phone. "Then I'll call the board. I'll have someone down here in 10 minutes who can authorize my presence." Rachel's jaw tightened. She knew Hale had that kind of power. She'd seen him manipulate board members before, bending bank policy to his will through sheer force of influence and wealth. But this was different. This was federal-level security. Even Hale's connections might not reach this high. "Do what you want," Rachel said finally. "But you're not going up there." She gestured to two security guards. "Escort Mr. Hale to the private lounge. Keep him comfortable and keep him there." The guards approached. Hale looked like he might argue, but something in Rachel's expression stopped him. He stepped back, his phone already at his ear, his voice low and urgent as he made his call. Rachel turned to Amina and Noah. "Let's go. Now." They moved through the lobby toward a door most customers never noticed. It was set into the wall near the back, unmarked except for a small biometric scanner beside the handle. Rachel pressed her palm against the scanner. It beeped twice, then clicked open. Behind the door was a hallway that didn't match the rest of the bank. No marble here, no chandeliers, just concrete walls painted white, lit by fluorescent strips that hummed softly overhead. It felt like descending into a bunker. Noah walked beside Amina, his hand hovering near her shoulder without quite touching. "You okay?" Amina nodded, but her eyes were wide. She had never been in a place like this. Everything felt wrong, like she had crossed into a world that wasn't meant for people like her. They reached an elevator at the end of the hall. This wasn't the polished brass elevator from the main lobby. This one was industrial, with brushed steel doors and a panel of unmarked buttons. Rachel pressed the lowest button. The elevator descended with a mechanical groan. When the doors opened, they stepped into something that looked more like a museum than a bank. The floor was dark marble, polished to a mirror shine. The walls were lined with reinforced doors, each one marked only with a number. Soft blue lights ran along the edges of the ceiling, giving the entire space an eerie, underwater glow. Noah had worked at Central Equity for 7 years. He had never been down here. "What is this place?" he whispered. Rachel's voice was tight. "The private treasury level. It's for accounts that require federal protection. Political families. Witnesses in major cases. People who need to disappear their money until it's safe to use it." Amina looked around at the doors. "Why would I need to disappear my money?" Rachel didn't answer. She led them down the hall to a door marked only with the number 7. There was no handle, no keypad, just a smooth glass panel set into the wall beside it. "Place your hand there," Rachel told Amina. Amina hesitated. "Why? Just do it." Amina pressed her small hand against the glass. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a green light traced the outline of her fingers, scanning each one. The panel beeped. The door clicked open. Rachel and Noah exchanged a look. The biometric lock had accepted her instantly. No secondary verification. No password. The system recognized Amina as if she had been programmed into it years ago. The room beyond was small and windowless. A single desk sat in the center, holding a sleek computer terminal. The walls were lined with what looked like filing cabinets, but these were digital displays showing encrypted data streams. Everything in the room hummed with a low, constant vibration. Noah closed the door behind them. The sound of the lock engaging was final, heavy. Rachel sat down at the terminal and entered her credentials. The screen flickered to life, displaying the Central Equity logo. She navigated through several security layers, each one requiring a different code sent to her phone. "What are you looking for?" Noah asked. "The origin of the account. Who opened it? Who funded it? Why it exists." The terminal loaded a file directory. Hundreds of folders appeared, each labeled with account numbers. Rachel typed in Amina's account number. The system searched for several seconds, then pulled up a single file. The file name made Rachel's hands freeze over the keyboard. Carter Trust, Anomaly, Level 5 Protection. She clicked it open. The first thing that appeared was a video player. A timestamp showed the recording was made 6 years ago. Rachel pressed play. The screen filled with the image of a man. He was black, in his late 50s, with graying hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He wore a simple suit and sat in what looked like an office, books lining the shelves behind him. "My name is Dr. Elias Carter," the man said. His voice was calm, measured, like a professor delivering a lecture. "If you're watching this, it means my goddaughter has accessed her account before her 18th birthday. That was not supposed to happen, which means something has gone wrong." Amina stepped closer to the screen. "I know him," she whispered. "He used to visit us when I was little." Dr. Carter continued speaking. "Amina's mother, Patricia Carter, worked for me as a data scientist. She was brilliant, one of the best analysts I ever employed. 5 years ago, she discovered something that powerful people wanted to remain hidden." Rachel's hand moved to the pause button, but she didn't press it. She needed to hear this. "Patricia uncovered evidence of a massive money laundering operation," Dr. Carter said. "Billions of dollars moving through shell companies, offshore accounts, and falsified reports. The operation was protected by people at the highest levels of corporate and political power. When Patricia brought the evidence to me, I knew we were both in danger." Noah felt his stomach drop. This wasn't just about money. This was about something that could destroy lives. "I created this account as a fail-safe," Dr. Carter continued. "The funds you see here are partially mine, partially recovered assets from the investigation, and partially insurance money from my estate. But the account serves a dual purpose. Embedded within the digital structure of this account are encrypted files containing all the evidence Patricia gathered. Whoever controls Amina's account controls the proof that could bring down some of the most powerful people in the country. Rachel paused the video. She turned to look at Amina, her expression a mixture of fear and disbelief. Your account isn't just money. It's a weapon. Amina didn't understand. But I just want to help my mom. I know, Rachel said quietly. She pressed play again. Dr. Carter's face filled the screen once more. I knew they would come for Patricia eventually. I tried to protect her. I set up systems to hide her location, to give her new identities. But I also knew that if I died or disappeared, those protections might fail. So I created this account in Amina's name. A child's account draws no attention. No one looks twice at a dormant account for a minor. He leaned forward, his expression intensifying. If Amina is accessing this account now, it means Patricia is in danger or has already been taken. It means the people who want this evidence destroyed have found them. To whoever is watching this with Amina, you need to understand something. This child is not just rich. She is carrying the key to the truth. And there are people who will kill to keep that truth buried. The video ended. The screen went black. The room was silent except for the hum of the servers. Noah broke the silence first. They're not trying to rob her. They're trying to silence her. Rachel stood up from the terminal, her legs unsteady. We need to contact federal authorities. This is beyond the bank's jurisdiction. Hale's voice came from behind them. A little late for that. They all spun around. Keaton Hale stood in the doorway, his assistant beside him. Somehow he had gotten past the security, bypassed the elevator, reached the restricted floor. How did you get down here? Rachel demanded. Hale held up a badge. Board-level access. I told you I'd make a call. He stepped into the room, his eyes fixed on the computer screen. What was on that video? That's confidential, Rachel said. Hale looked at her with something close to pity. Rachel, the moment that girl's balance appeared on a screen, confidentiality went out the window. This bank is locked down. There are federal agents on their way. And you think I don't have a right to know what's happening? He turned to Amina. His voice softened slightly. Kid, I need you to tell me the truth. Do you know what your mother did for a living? Amina shook her head. She worked with computers. That's all I know. And this Dr. Carter. You knew him. A little. He was nice. He gave me books. Hale's expression darkened. He looked back at the terminal screen, where the video players still showed Dr. Carter's frozen face. I know that name. Elias Carter was a federal investigator before he became a philanthropist. He worked on financial crimes. High-level stuff. Rachel's phone buzzed. She looked down at it and her face went even paler. They're here. Who? Noah asked. The people who want Amina's account. Before anyone could respond, the lights in the room flickered. The hum of the servers changed pitch, becoming erratic. The terminal screen flashed red. Noah rushed to the computer. An alert message filled the display. Unauthorized access attempt. External breach detected. Someone's hacking into the system, Noah said. They're trying to access Amina's account remotely. Rachel grabbed her phone and dialed headquarters. We have a breach. Treasury level. Someone's attacking the account from outside the building. The voice on the other end of the line was frantic. Rachel listened for a moment, her face going from pale to ashen. She lowered the phone. They've breached the bank's firewall. They're inside our network. Hale pulled out his own phone and made a call. His voice was clipped, urgent. I need Marcus. Now. I don't care what he's doing. Get him on the line. He waited, pacing the small room. Marcus, it's Hale. I need a cybersecurity team at Central Equity Bank. Full-scale attack. Yes, I know it's Sunday. I don't care what it costs. Noah was still at the terminal, his fingers flying across the keyboard. They're trying to drain the account. If they get through, the money and the encrypted files disappear. Amina stood in the center of the room, watching everyone move around her like she was a stone in a river. Can they take it? Not if we stop them, Noah said, though he didn't sound confident. The terminal screen changed again. A new message appeared. Voice authorization required. What does that mean? Rachel asked. Noah read the prompt. The system has a failsafe. It needs Amina to speak a specific phrase. Something recorded when the account was created. What phrase? It doesn't say. The speakers in the room crackled to life. A sound file began playing automatically. It was a child's voice, high and uncertain. Amina recognized it immediately. It was her own voice from years ago, when she was maybe 4 or 5 years old. "Say the rhyme Mommy taught you," the tiny voice instructed. Adult Amina looked around the room, confused. "What rhyme?" "Think," Noah urged. "Something your mother taught you when you were little. A poem, a song, something." Amina closed her eyes. She tried to remember. Her childhood was a blur of moving from apartment to apartment, her mother always looking over her shoulder, always worried. But there was one thing, one rhyme her mother used to say at bedtime. Amina opened her eyes and spoke. "Stars above and stones below, keep the secret safe to grow. When the night is dark and deep, guardians watch while angels sleep." The terminal beeped. The hacking attempt froze mid-process. The red alerts disappeared, replaced by a green confirmation. Voice match confirmed. Account secured. Noah exhaled in relief. It worked. The breach stopped. But Rachel was staring at her phone. "It's not over. They're not trying to hack anymore. They're coming in person." "What?" "Security cameras outside. There's a vehicle. 3 men. They're approaching the building." Hale moved to the door. "We need to move her somewhere safer." "There is nowhere safer," Rachel said. "The Treasury level is the most secure place in the bank. Then we lock down this room and wait for federal backup." A loud boom echoed through the building, so powerful it shook the walls of the small room. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered again. "What was that?" Amina whispered. Noah checked the security feed on the terminal. His face went white. "They're not waiting. They're breaching the building. They just blew the rear emergency exit." Rachel grabbed Amina's arm. "We have to go. Now." "Go where?" Noah asked. "There's a panic bunker, built for situations exactly like this. It's on this level, past the vault corridor." They moved quickly into the hallway. The blue lights along the ceiling had turned red, bathing everything in a crimson glow. Alarms blared from somewhere above them. Hale followed close behind, his assistant stumbling to keep up. "How do you know about a panic bunker?" "I was briefed when I became senior manager. It's for extreme circumstances. Government witnesses. Threats of violence." Rachel's voice was shaking now. "I never thought I'd actually have to use it." They ran down the hall, past the numbered doors, past the reinforced vault entrances. Amina's bare feet made no sound, but everyone else's shoes echoed like drumbeats. Another boom, closer this time. Somewhere on an upper floor, glass shattered. They reached a dead end. The hallway terminated in a blank concrete wall. Rachel pressed her palm against a hidden panel. Nothing happened. "Come on," she muttered, pressing harder. Noah looked back the way they had come. "Rachel, we don't have time for this. It requires biometric verification from 2 different people," Rachel said. "I need someone else." "Try me," Hale said. Rachel looked at him with surprise, but she didn't argue. Hale pressed his palm against a second panel that had appeared beside the first. The wall split down the middle, 2 sections sliding apart to reveal another hallway. This one was narrower, darker, with reinforced steel walls instead of concrete. "How did that work?" Noah asked. "Hale's not an employee. Board-level access," Rachel said. "The system recognizes him as part of the bank's leadership." They moved into the new corridor. The wall sealed shut behind them with a heavy pneumatic hiss. The hallway stretched for maybe 30 feet before ending at a massive steel door. It looked like something from a submarine, with a wheel lock in the center and pressure seals along the edges. Rachel approached the door, but before she could reach it, the terminal screen beside it lit up on its own. A biometric scanner activated, glowing green. "It needs Amina," Noah realized. Amina stepped forward. She placed her hand on the scanner without being asked. The device read her palm print, then extended a small camera that scanned her eyes. The wheel lock on the door spun open on its own. The seals released with a hiss of air. The door swung inward, revealing a small room beyond. They hurried inside. Hale was the last one through. He grabbed the wheel lock and pulled the door shut, spinning it until the seals engaged again. The room they found themselves in was maybe 15 feet square. The walls were bare steel. A bank of monitors lined one wall, showing security feeds from throughout the building. A communications console sat beneath them, lights blinking in patterns that suggested active connections. There were no windows, no furniture except for a few fold-down chairs attached to the wall. Rachel collapsed into one of the chairs. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold her phone. Noah checked the monitors. On one screen, he could see 3 men moving through the Treasury-level hallway. They wore dark suits and moved with tactical precision. One of them carried a device that he held up to each numbered door, searching. "They're looking for us," Noah said. Hale recognized something on one of the men's jackets. A small emblem, barely visible. His face went gray. "I know who they work for." Everyone turned to look at him. The corporation that Dr. Carter was investigating. The one that was laundering money. Hale swallowed hard. "I've seen that emblem before. My company has worked with them. My board has connections to them." Rachel stared at him. "You're telling me you're connected to the people trying to kill this child?" "I didn't know," Hale said quickly. "I swear I didn't know what they were doing. I just knew they were powerful. Too powerful to question." Noah's voice was cold. "And now you're trapped in here with us." "I'm trying to help," Hale shot back. "I call my cybersecurity team. I help you get through the door. I'm not your enemy." "Then who is?" Amina asked. Her voice was so quiet they almost didn't hear her. Hale knelt down in front of her. The arrogance was completely gone now. He looked tired, frightened, human. People who care more about power than anything else. People who spent years building empires on secrets and lies. Your mother found proof of those lies, and they'll do anything to make sure that proof never sees daylight. Amina's eyes filled with tears. "Where's my mom? Is she okay?" Hale didn't answer. He didn't know. Rachel was working the communications console, trying to establish a connection to federal authorities. The screen flickered, showing a connection attempt, but no one was responding. "They must be jamming our signal," she said. "We can't get through." On the monitors, the 3 men had reached the end of the hallway. One of them pulled out a tablet and consulted it. He pointed directly at the wall that hid the corridor they had entered. "They know we're in here," Noah said. "Can they get through that door?" Hale asked. Rachel looked at the reinforced steel door behind them. "It's designed to withstand explosives, but I don't know what kind of equipment they have." Amina walked over to the communications console. She looked at the blinking lights, the rows of buttons, the screen showing failed connection attempts. She remembered something her mother used to say back when they still had an apartment with internet. "Sometimes you have to go around instead of through." Noah looked at her. "What do you mean? Try a different channel. Not the main one." Rachel frowned but adjusted the console. She switched from the primary federal emergency line to a secondary channel, one used for bank-to-bank communications in crisis situations. The screen flickered. This time, a connection established. A face appeared on the monitor. A woman in a federal agent's uniform, her expression stern. Behind her, other agents moved with purpose. "Central Equity Bank, this is Federal Treasury Division. We've been attempting to reach you. Your primary line is compromised." Rachel nearly sobbed with relief. "We have a critical situation. We're in the panic bunker on the Treasury level. There are armed intruders in the building attempting to access a protected account." "We're aware," the agent said. "We have units en route. ETA, 3 minutes. The account in question belongs to Amina Carter." "Yes." The agent's expression softened slightly when she looked at something off-screen. "Is Amina there with you? Is she safe?" Rachel turned the camera toward Amina. The girl stood beside Noah, her torn shirt looking even more ragged in the harsh light of the bunker. The agent's face changed. She looked relieved, almost emotional. "Amina, we've been looking for you and your mother for months. Your mother is alive. We found her 3 days ago. She's in federal protection." Amina's knees buckled. Noah caught her before she fell. Tears streamed down her face. "She's alive." "Yes." "She's injured, but she's recovering. She's been asking for you." Amina couldn't speak. She could only cry, huge gasping sobs that came from somewhere deep inside her. The agent continued, her voice gentle. "We're going to get you out of there safely, and then we're going to take you to your mother. I promise." On the security monitors, the 3 men in suits had begun retreating. They had received some kind of signal. Federal units must be closing in. Hale watched them go, his expression unreadable. He had spent his entire adult life building wealth and power. He had stepped on people, dismissed them, treated them like obstacles to be removed. And now, sitting in a bunker with a crying child who had more money than he did, he realized how hollow all of that had been. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. He wasn't sure who he was talking to. Maybe Amina. Maybe himself. The agent on the screen gave instructions. "Stay in the bunker until my team reaches you. Do not open the door for anyone who doesn't give you the proper code word. The word is guardian." Rachel nodded. "We'll wait." The minutes that followed felt like hours. They sat in the small bunker, listening to distant sounds that might have been footsteps or might have been their imagination. Amina had stopped crying, but her face was streaked with tears. She kept whispering the same thing over and over. "She's alive. My mom's alive." Noah sat beside her, his hand on her shoulder. Rachel monitored the security feeds. Hale stood against the wall, staring at nothing. Then, finally, a knock on the door. 3 sharp raps, followed by a voice. "Federal agents. Code word guardian. Open up." Rachel checked the security monitor one more time, confirming the uniforms and badges. Then she opened the communication panel and remotely released the door seal. The wheels spun. The door opened. 4 federal agents entered, weapons drawn, but lowered when they saw the group inside. The woman from the video call was among them. She went straight to Amina. "My name is Agent Morrison. I'm going to take you somewhere safe, and then I'm going to take you to see your mom. Does that sound okay?" Amina nodded, unable to speak. Agent Morrison looked at Rachel and Noah. "You both did the right thing. The evidence embedded in that account is now in federal custody. We'll make sure it reaches the right people." She turned to Hale. Her expression hardened. "Mr. Hale, we're going to need you to come with us as well. We have questions about your connections to the corporation involved in this case." Hale didn't argue. He simply nodded. For once, he had nothing to say. As they led everyone out of the bunker, past the sealed corridor, into the elevator that would take them back to the world above, Amina looked back one last time at the Treasury level. This place of secrets and locked doors, where her future had been hidden away, waiting for the moment when it would be needed. She didn't understand everything that had happened. She didn't understand the money or the evidence or the power that adults fought over. But she understood one thing perfectly. Her mother was alive, and that was all that mattered. Federal agents had secured the Treasury level, but the threat hadn't passed. Agent Morrison led Amina and the others toward the elevator, her hand resting protectively on the girl's shoulder. Behind them, 2 more agents swept the corridor with tactical precision, their weapons drawn, checking every shadow and doorway. Rachel walked close to Noah, her earlier composure completely shattered. She kept glancing back at Amina, as if afraid the girl might vanish. Hale moved in silence, his assistant nowhere to be seen. The millionaire who had strutted through the lobby just hours ago now looked decades older, his face drawn and pale. They reached the elevator. Agent Morrison pressed the button, but nothing happened. She tried again. Still nothing. One of the agents behind her spoke into his radio. "Command, elevators not responding. Status on building systems." Static crackled, then a voice responded. "Multiple systems compromised." They hit the power grid before they retreated. "Backup generators are holding, but elevators are locked down." Morrison swore under her breath. She looked at the group. "We're taking the stairs. Stay close and stay quiet." The emergency stairwell was accessed through a door marked with faded paint. Morrison pushed it open, revealing concrete steps that climbed upward into darkness. Emergency lights provided just enough illumination to see a few steps ahead. They began climbing. Amina's bare feet made soft padding sounds on the concrete. Nobody spoke. The only sounds were breathing and footsteps and the distant wail of alarms that continued to echo through the building. After 3 flights, Morrison's radio crackled again. "Agent Morrison, be advised. We have movement on the main floor. Unknown number of individuals attempting to access secure areas." Morrison stopped climbing. "Are they law enforcement?" "Negative. No identification. They arrived in unmarked vehicles." "The 3 suspects who breached earlier?" "Unknown. These appear to be additional personnel." Hale spoke for the first time since leaving the bunker. They're not giving up. They want that evidence destroyed. Morrison ignored him. She gestured for everyone to continue climbing, but faster now. We need to reach the main floor. My team has secured the lobby. They climbed 2 more flights. Amina's breathing had grown labored. Noah noticed and slowed his pace to match hers. You doing okay? She nodded, but her legs were shaking. She had barely eaten that morning. The adrenaline that had kept her going was starting to fade, leaving only exhaustion. They reached a landing marked with the number 1. The main floor. Morrison held up a hand, stopping everyone. She pressed her ear against the door, listening. Distant voices. Footsteps. The crackle of radios. Morrison spoke in her own radio. Command, we're at the stairwell exit. Main floor south side. What's our situation? South side is clear. Exit through the teller area and proceed to the main entrance. Armored transport is waiting. Morrison opened the door carefully. The hallway beyond was empty, but the sounds were louder now. Shouting. The metallic bang of doors being forced open. Someone was still searching the building. They moved quickly through the hallway, past the offices where loan officers and accountants usually worked. Papers were scattered across desks. Computer monitors displayed frozen screens. Everything had been abandoned when the lockdown began. They emerged into the main lobby. The space that had been crowded with customers hours earlier was now filled with federal agents. Men and women in tactical gear stood at every entrance. The steel shutters over the windows remained closed, turning the lobby into a fortress lit only by emergency lighting. 3 armored vehicles were visible through the glass doors, their engines running, exhaust visible in the cold air outside. Agent Morrison led the group toward the doors. She was 10 feet away when her radio exploded with urgent voices. Contact. East entrance. Multiple suspects attempting forced entry. West side, we have visual on armed individuals. They're trying to breach from multiple points. Morrison grabbed Amina and pulled her behind a marble column. Noah, Rachel, and Hale followed, pressing themselves against the stone. How many? Morrison shouted into her radio. At least 8. Maybe more. They're coordinated. Professional. Hale's voice was hollow. They brought a whole team. They're willing to start a war in the middle of downtown just to get to her. Rachel looked at Amina. The girl's eyes were wide with fear, but she wasn't crying. She just stood there, small and fragile in her torn shirt, while armed men fought over secrets she didn't even understand. Morrison made a decision. We're going out the front. Now, before they can reposition. She looked at the other agents. Full escort. Shields up. Move. 4 agents formed a protective box around Amina, holding riot shields on all sides. Morrison took point. 2 more agents covered the rear. The group moved as one unit toward the glass doors. Outside, one of the armored vehicles rolled forward until its rear door was directly aligned with the entrance. An agent inside threw the door open. They crossed the threshold into chaos. The street outside had been cordoned off, but beyond the barriers, crowds had gathered. News cameras, reporters, onlookers with phones held high, recording everything. Police cars blocked the intersections, their lights painting the buildings in alternating red and blue. And on the edges, barely visible in the shadows between buildings, figures moved. Men in dark clothing, watching, waiting. The agents hustled Amina into the armored vehicle. Noah climbed in after her. Rachel followed. Morrison was about to enter when she turned back to Hale. You're in a different vehicle. We need to keep you separated for questioning. Ale nodded. He looked at Amina one last time. I'm sorry, he said. For everything. Amina didn't respond. She didn't know what to say to this man who had laughed at her poverty just hours ago. The doors slammed shut. The vehicle lurched forward, pushing through the crowd, following a police escort that carved a path through the downtown streets. Inside, the lighting was dim. Bench seats lined both sides. Noah sat beside Amina, while Rachel sat across from them. Agent Morrison settled into a seat near the front. Her radio pressed to her ear as she received updates. Amina stared at her hands. They were dirty, the fingernails cracked and lined with grime. She hadn't noticed before. She hadn't noticed a lot of things. Where are we going? She asked quietly. Morrison looked up. Her expression softened. Somewhere safe. And we're taking you to see your mother. Is she far away? No, not far at all. The vehicle drove for 15 minutes, weaving through streets that grew progressively emptier. They left the downtown core and entered a neighborhood of older buildings, warehouses converted into lofts, streets lined with trees that had begun dropping their leaves. Finally, they stopped in front of a nondescript building with no signs or markings. The door opened and agents escorted them inside quickly. The interior didn't match the exterior. Past the plain entrance was a modern facility with white walls, security cameras, and doors that required badge access. They passed through 2 security checkpoints before reaching an elevator that descended instead of rising. When the elevator doors opened, they stepped into what looked like a small apartment complex. A hallway stretched ahead, lined with doors marked only with numbers. Soft lighting made it feel less like a government facility and more like a hotel. Morrison led them to room 7. She knocked gently. "Patricia? It's Agent Morrison. I have someone here to see you." The door opened. Amina saw her mother, and everything else disappeared. Patricia Carter stood in the doorway, thinner than Amina remembered, her face marked with bruises that had begun to fade from purple to yellow. Her arm was in a sling, but her eyes were the same, dark and warm and filled with a love so fierce it hurt to look at. "Baby," Patricia whispered. Amina ran. She crashed into her mother's legs, wrapping her arms around her waist, burying her face in the fabric of her mother's shirt. Patricia dropped to her knees, ignoring the pain in her injured arm, pulling her daughter close with her good hand. They stayed like that for a long time. Morrison stepped back, giving them space. Noah felt tears in his own eyes. Rachel turned away, pressing her hand to her mouth. Finally, Patricia pulled back enough to look at her daughter's face. She touched Amina's cheek, brushed the tangled hair from her forehead. "Are you hurt? Did they hurt you?" Amina shook her head. "I'm okay, Mama. I'm okay now." Patricia stood slowly, wincing at the movement. She guided Amina into the room. It was small but comfortable. A bed, a couch, a kitchenette. A window showed a view of the parking structure outside. Morrison followed them in. "Mrs. Carter, we need to debrief Amina about what happened at the bank. Is that all right?" Patricia pulled her daughter close. "Can it wait? Please, just give us a few minutes." Morrison nodded. "Of course. Take your time." She stepped back into the hallway, closing the door softly behind her. Mother and daughter sat together on the couch. Patricia couldn't stop touching Amina's face, her hair, her hands, as if confirming she was real. "I'm so sorry," Patricia said. "I try to keep you safe. I tried so hard." "What happened, Mama? Where were you?" Patricia's face clouded. "The men who came to our apartment, they weren't asking questions just to ask. They took me. They wanted to know about Dr. Carter, about the work I did for him. They thought they could make me tell them how to access the evidence." "Did you tell them?" "No, never. But they kept me for days. They hurt me." She touched her injured arm. "But the federal agents found me. Dr. Carter had set up protocols, ways to track if something happened to me. The agents got me out." Amina pressed closer to her mother. "They said Dr. Carter died." "Yes, he did. A long time ago. But before he died, he made sure we'd be protected. He put money in an account for you. He hid the evidence there. He knew someday we'd need it. I went to the bank like you told me to. I just want to check if we had enough to help you." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "You're so brave. My brave girl." The bank locked down. There were alarms and men with guns. "I was scared. I know. I'm so sorry you had to go through that." A man named Mr. Hale was there. He was mean at first, but then he helped us. Patricia frowned. "Keaton Hale. You know him?" "I know of him. He works with some of the same people who try to silence us." He said he didn't know what they were doing. Patricia stroked her daughter's hair. "Maybe he didn't. Or maybe he's just good at lying to himself." A knock on the door interrupted them. Agent Morrison stepped inside. "I'm sorry, but we really do need to move forward with the debrief. There are some things Amina saw that could help us." Patricia nodded reluctantly. "Okay, but I'm staying with her." "Of course." Morrison sat in a chair across from the couch. She pulled out a tablet and opened a file. "Amina, I need you to tell me everything that happened from the moment you entered the bank. Take your time. Every detail matters. Amina recounted the morning. Walking into the lobby, the stairs, the security guard, Rachel telling her to leave. Then Mr. Hale arriving, acting like he owned the place. He made fun of me, Amina said. He said if I had more than $50 in my account, he'd eat his tie. Morrison made notes on her tablet. Then what happened? They took me to a desk. Mr. Noah tried to help me, but the computer said my account was restricted. They had to call someone. The Treasury Division? I think so. Then they showed me my balance. And what did you think when you saw it? Amina looked down. I didn't understand. I thought maybe it was a mistake. I just wanted to know if it was enough to help my mama. Patricia squeezed her daughter's hand. Morrison continued. Then the bank went into lockdown? Yes. They closed all the doors. Everyone was scared. Did you see the men who tried to breach the building? Only on the cameras. They wore suits. They moved like soldiers. Morrison showed Amina a series of photographs on her tablet. Do you recognize any of these men? Amina studied the faces. Most meant nothing to her, but one made her freeze. Him. He was at our apartment. He talked to our landlord. Morrison marked the photo. Are you sure? Yes. I hid in the stairwell, but I saw him. He asked where we were. Patricia's face had gone pale. That's one of them. One of the men who took me. Morrison made more notes. This is helpful. Very helpful. She looked at Patricia. We're building a case against the corporation. The evidence Dr. Carter hid in Amina's account is detailed. Financial records, witness statements, internal communications. It's enough to bring charges against multiple executives. Will it be enough to convict them? Patricia asked. With your testimony and Amina's identification, yes. I believe it will. Morrison stood. I'll give you both some time to rest. We have agents stationed outside. You're safe here. She left the room. Mother and daughter sat in silence for a moment. Mama, Amina said quietly, why did Dr. Carter help us? Patricia smiled sadly. Because he was a good man. When I found the evidence, I didn't know what to do. I was terrified. I went to him because I trusted him. Instead of telling me to stay quiet, instead of protecting himself, he helped me. He said the truth was more important than safety. Did he know he might die? I think he did. But he did it anyway. Amina thought about that. About a man she barely remembered choosing to risk everything for what was right. About her mother making the same choice. Are we going to be okay? She asked. Patricia pulled her close. Yes, baby. We're going to be okay. The money Dr. Carter left for you, it's secure now. The federal government is protecting it. When you're older, you can use it however you want. For school, for helping others, for whatever you dream of. I just want us to be together. We will be, I promise. Amina closed her eyes, leaning against her mother. For the first time in months, she felt safe. The fear that had become her constant companion began to fade. Outside, in a conference room down the hall, Agent Morrison met with her team. They spread files across a table, each one containing evidence extracted from Amina's account. This is bigger than we thought, one agent said. The money laundering operation spans 12 countries. Billions of dollars. Morrison nodded. And the people involved are exactly who we suspected. Corporate executives, politicians, even a few judges. Can we protect the family through the trial? We have to. Patricia and Amina are the key witnesses. Without them, the defense will tear our case apart. Another agent spoke up. What about Keaton Hale? He's in interview room 3. He's been cooperative so far. Claims he didn't know the extent of his company's involvement. Do you believe him? Morrison considered. I think he's a man who spent his whole life not asking questions because the answers might be inconvenient. But I also think what happened today scared him. Maybe enough to actually tell the truth. Should we offer him immunity? Not yet. Let's see what he gives us first. In interview room 3, Keaton Hale sat at a metal table, his expensive suit rumpled, his silver hair disheveled. An agent sat across from him, recording everything. Tell me about your company's relationship with Titanium Holdings, the agent said. Hale rubbed his face. We partnered with them on several acquisitions. Real estate deals, mostly. They provided funding. We provided expertise. Did you ever question where their funding came from? No. Why not? Because I didn't want to know. Hale looked up, meeting the agent's eyes. You want me to say I suspected something? Fine. I suspected. But I told myself it wasn't my problem. I told myself that as long as the money was clean by the time it reached me, I wasn't responsible for where it came from. That's not how the law works, Mr. Hale. I know that now. The agent leaned forward. We can offer you leniency if you cooperate fully, but you need to give us everything. Names, dates, transactions, every connection between your company and Titanium Holdings. Hale was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. I want immunity for my employees. The people who work for me, they didn't know. This was board level. They shouldn't suffer for my mistakes. We could discuss that. And want to testify publicly. I want to tell everyone what these people are. The agent raised an eyebrow. You understand that will destroy your reputation? Your career. My reputation was built on sand anyway. Hale's voice was bitter. A 12-year-old girl in a torn shirt taught me more about integrity in one afternoon than I learned in 30 years of business. All right, Mr. Hale. Let's start from the beginning. Back in room 7, Amina had fallen asleep on the couch, her head resting in her mother's lap. Patricia stroked her daughter's hair, tears sliding silently down her face. She had been so afraid. Afraid she would die without seeing Amina again. Afraid the men who took her would hurt her daughter. Afraid the truth would die with her. But Dr. Carter's plan had worked. His fail-safes had triggered. His protection had held. Patricia looked down at her sleeping daughter. This brave, innocent girl who had walked into a bank alone, who had faced ridicule and danger without breaking, who only wanted to help her mother. I'm going to make sure you have a life you deserve, Patricia whispered. I promise. Amina stirred slightly, but didn't wake. In her sleep, a small smile crossed her face. For the first time in a very long time, she was dreaming instead of having nightmares. 3 weeks had passed since the lockdown at Central Equity Bank. The story had exploded across every news channel, every website, every social media platform. A 12-year-old girl with $400 million. A conspiracy involving corporate giants. Federal agents storming a downtown bank. It had everything the public craved, but Amina barely noticed. She spent her days in the safe house with her mother, learning what it meant to feel safe again. Patricia's arm was healing. The bruises had faded. Color had returned to her face. They ate meals together, watched movies, talked about things that had nothing to do with money or danger. Agent Morrison visited regularly, preparing them for what was coming. The trial, the testimony, the media attention that would follow. On the morning of the 22nd day, Morrison arrived earlier than usual. Her expression was serious. The grand jury returned indictments this morning, she said. 14 executives from Titanium Holdings. 6 politicians. 2 judges. They'll be arrested within the hour. Patricia stood from the couch where she'd been reading. So it's really happening. Yes. And we need to move you both to a more secure location. Once the arrests go public, there will be intense media scrutiny. We can't risk anyone finding the safe house. Where are we going? Amina asked. A federal facility upstate. It's more isolated, better protected. You'll stay there until the trial. They packed quickly. Amina had accumulated a few belongings during her stay. New clothes that actually fit. Books Morrison had brought her. A stuffed bear from one of the kind agents who worked the night shift. She put everything in a small backpack. The transport was similar to before. Armored vehicle, police escort, agents on all sides. But this time they drove for hours, leaving the city behind, heading into countryside where houses grew farther apart and trees outnumbered people. The facility was a compound surrounded by high fences and security gates. Inside, it looked less like a government building and more like a small campus. Several houses arranged around a central courtyard. A recreation area with basketball hoops and picnic tables. Gardens that someone had planted with fall flowers. Other families stay here too, Morrison explained as she led them to their assigned house. Witnesses in high-profile cases. People who need protection but also need to live something close to a normal life. The house was larger than the safe house room. 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, a living room with comfortable furniture. Windows looked out onto the courtyard instead of parking structures. Will we be here long? Patricia asked. Until the trial concludes. Could be months. Amina walked through the rooms, touching furniture, opening closets, trying to make it feel real. A place where they could stay. A place that might become home, at least for a while. That first week in the compound passed quietly. Amina met other children whose families were in protection. A boy whose father had exposed a drug cartel. A girl whose mother had witnessed a political assassination. They didn't talk much about why they were there. They just played basketball and did homework and tried to be kids. Patricia started physical therapy for her arm. She met with prosecutors who asked endless questions about her work for Dr. Carter, about the evidence she'd uncovered, about every detail that might help convict the people who had tried to silence her. In a detention center 200 miles away, 14 executives sat in cells awaiting trial. 6 politicians had resigned or been removed from office. 2 judges faced disbarment and criminal charges. And in a federal building downtown, Keaton Hale sat across from prosecutors and told them everything. He described meetings where Titanium Holdings executives discussed moving money through shell companies. He provided emails showing his board's connections to the operation. He admitted that he had ignored warning signs because the profits were too good to question. I built my entire career on not asking difficult questions, he told them. I convinced myself that willful ignorance was different from complicity. I was wrong. The lead prosecutor, a woman named Sarah Chun, studied him across the table. Mr. Hale, you understand that your testimony will likely end your career? That you'll be seen as a traitor by your peers? My peers are either in jail or should be, Hale said flatly. I don't care what they think anymore. Why the change of heart? What happened at that bank? Hale was quiet for a moment. I saw a child who had more courage in one afternoon than I've had in my entire life. She walked into that bank alone, asking for help for her mother. And I laughed at her. I mocked her poverty. I treated her like she was beneath me. He looked down at his hands. And then I found out she was worth more than me in every way that matters. Not just the money. Her character. Her integrity. Her love for her mother. Everything I'd spent decades pretending didn't matter. Sarah made notes. You're willing to testify to all of this in open court. Yes. It won't be easy. The defense will attack your credibility. They'll say you're only cooperating to save yourself. They'd be partially right. I'm trying to save myself. Just not in the way they think. Hale met her eyes. I'm trying to save whatever piece of my soul is left. Sarah nodded slowly. All right, Mr. Hale. Let's prepare your testimony. Back at the compound, autumn deepened into early winter. Amina started attending classes with the other protected children. A teacher came 3 days a week, working with each child at their own level. It wasn't like regular school, but it was something. Patricia's arm healed enough to remove the sling. She started helping in the compound's kitchen, cooking meals for other families. It gave her something to do, a way to feel useful while they waited. One evening, as they ate dinner together in their small house, Amina asked the question that had been building inside her for weeks. Mama, what happens after the trial? Patricia set down her fork. What do you mean? After they convict those people? After we don't have to hide anymore? What happens to us? Patricia reached across the table and took her daughter's hand. We get to choose. For the first time in a long time, we get to choose our own path. Can we go back to our apartment? No, baby. That place isn't safe. Too many people know we live there. Then where will we go? Patricia smiled. Anywhere you want. The money Dr. Carter left for you. It's protected in a trust. The government is managing it until you turn 18. But they've agreed to release funds for our living expenses. We can get a house. In a good neighborhood with good schools. You can have your own room. We can plant a garden. We could be a family without always looking over our shoulders. Amina's eyes welled up. Really? Really? Can I just be a regular kid? Patricia's voice caught. Yes. You could be exactly what you should have been all along. They held hands across the table, tears streaming down both their faces, grieving for the years they'd lost and hoping for the years they might gain. The trial began on a gray Monday in December. The courthouse was surrounded by media trucks and protesters. Some held signs supporting the whistleblowers. Others claimed the whole thing was a political attack. Police kept the crowds behind barriers. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Journalists filled the gallery. Sketch artists positioned themselves for the best angles. The defendants sat at tables with their expensive lawyers, their faces carefully neutral. Patricia testified first. She spent 2 days on the stand, describing how she'd uncovered the money laundering scheme while working for Dr. Carter. She presented documents, explained spreadsheets, walked the jury through the evidence step by step. The defense attorneys attacked her credibility, suggesting she'd fabricated evidence to extort money from Titanium Holdings. But Patricia remained calm, answering every question with facts and documentation. Amina didn't testify that first week. The prosecutors wanted to save her testimony for maximum impact. So she sat in a private room with Agent Morrison, watching the proceedings on a video feed, waiting for her turn. On the 8th day of the trial, Keaton Hale took the stand. The courtroom buzzed with whispered conversations. Everyone knew who he was. The millionaire investor. The man with connections to everyone who mattered. And now he was testifying for the prosecution. Hale wore a simple dark suit, nothing flashy. His silver hair was neatly combed, but his face showed signs of strain. He lost weight. He looked older. Sarah Chan approached the witness stand. Mr. Hale, please state your relationship to Titanium Holdings. My investment firm partnered with them on multiple projects over the past 7 years. Real estate acquisitions, primarily. They provided capital. We provided market expertise. And what did you know about the source of their capital? Hale took a breath. Initially, nothing. But over time, I began to notice irregularities. Money appearing from offshore accounts. Transactions that didn't match standard banking procedures. Questions that were deflected or ignored. Did you investigate these irregularities? No. Why not? Because the money was good. Because my board was happy. Because I told myself it wasn't my responsibility to ask where the money came from as long as our deals were legal. But they weren't legal, were they? No, they weren't. The defense attorney, a sharp-faced man named Douglas Whitmore, stood during cross-examination. Mr. Hale, isn't it true that you're only testifying to avoid prosecution yourself? I'm testifying because it's the right thing to do. How convenient that doing the right thing also protects you from jail time. I expect to face consequences for my actions, Mr. Whitmore. I've accepted that, but I won't let innocent people suffer while I stay silent. Innocent people? You mean people like Amina Carter? Yes. The girl who happens to have $400 million. The girl who was hunted by the people you're defending. The girl who only wanted to help her mother. Whitmore sneered. How touching. Tell me, Mr. Hale, did the prosecution offer you immunity in exchange for this performance? Limited immunity for my testimony. Full accountability for my actions. That was the deal. So you get to play the hero while the real heroes go to prison. Hale's voice was steady. There are no heroes here, Mr. Whitmore. Only people trying to clean up the mess we made. The cross-examination continued for hours, but Hale didn't break. He admitted his mistakes. He acknowledged his greed. He owned his failures. And somehow, that honesty was more powerful than any defense. When Hale finally stepped down from the stand, he looked exhausted. But there was something different in his eyes. Something that might have been peace. On the 12th day of the trial, Amina testified. The prosecutors had arranged for her to enter through a private entrance, avoiding the media circus outside. She wore a simple blue dress that Patricia had picked out. Her hair was neatly braided. She looked like any other 12-year-old girl, except for the federal agents flanking her on both sides. The courtroom fell silent when she entered. Even the defendants stopped their whispered conversations with their lawyers. Sarah Chun approached her gently after she was sworn in. Amina, can you tell the jury what happened on the morning of October 15th? Amina's voice was quiet but clear. I went to Central Equity Bank to check my account balance. Why did you need to check your balance? My mama was sick. She told me there might be money in an account that could help her. Had you been to the bank before? No, ma'am. It was my first time. What happened when you arrived? Amina described the morning. The marble lobby. The stairs. The security guard who didn't know what to do with her. Rachel trying to send her away. Mr. Hale mocking her. Several jury members shifted uncomfortably when she recounted Hale's joke about eating his tie. And then what happened? Sarah asked. They checked my account. Everyone was surprised. Then the bank locked down. Were you scared? Yes. I didn't understand why people were so upset about money in my account. Did you know how much money was there? Not until they showed me. I didn't know what $400 million meant. I just wanted to know if it was enough to help my mama. Sarah showed her a series of photographs. Amina, do you recognize any of these men? Amina studied the photos. She pointed to one. Him. He came to our apartment building. He asked our landlord about us. Are you certain? Yes. I hid on the stairs and watched him. Did you see him again? On the security cameras at the bank. He was one of the men trying to get in. Douglas Whitmore declined to cross-examine. There was no advantage in attacking a 12-year-old girl on the stand. The jury would crucify him. The trial lasted 3 more weeks. Forensic accountants testified about the money trails. FBI agents described their investigation. More witnesses came forward, people who had been too afraid to speak before. On a cold morning in January, the jury returned their verdict. Guilty on all counts. All 14 executives. All 6 politicians. Both judges. The courtroom erupted in chaos. Reporters rushed for the exits. Defendants shouted at their lawyers. The judge banged his gavel repeatedly, calling for order. Outside the courthouse, news cameras captured reactions. Some people cheered. Others protested. But mostly, people felt something they hadn't felt in a long time when it came to corporate crime. They felt like justice was possible. That evening, back at the compound, Amina and Patricia watched the news coverage together. Patricia had her arm around her daughter, holding her close. It's over, Patricia whispered. It's really over. What happens now? Now we start living. 2 weeks later, Agent Morrison arrived at their house with paperwork. The trust has been finalized. The funds in Amina's account are secure and will be managed by a federal oversight committee until she turns 18. In the meantime, you've been approved for a monthly allowance to cover living expenses, education, and medical care. She handed Patricia a folder. There's also this, a list of potential relocation sites, cities where we can provide you with new identities if you want them, where you can stay in your real names. The threat level has dropped significantly with the convictions. Patricia opened the folder and studied the list. Cities scattered across the country. Fresh starts in unfamiliar places. Can we pick somewhere with good schools? Amina asked. Morrison smiled. Absolutely. They chose a small city in the Pacific Northwest. Not too big, not too small. Good schools, safe neighborhoods, far enough from their past that they could build something new. The move happened in March. Federal agents helped them settle into a modest house in a quiet neighborhood. 2 bedrooms, a backyard with space for a garden, a kitchen where Patricia could cook without looking over her shoulder. Amina enrolled in middle school under her real name. The other students didn't know her story. To them, she was just the new girl who was quiet but nice, who helped people with their math homework, who always had her lunch packed in a brown paper bag. She made friends slowly. A girl named Emma, who loved science. A boy named Marcus, who played basketball. Normal kids living normal lives. Patricia got a job at a local library. It didn't pay much, but she didn't need much. The trust covered their expenses. She worked because she wanted to, because it felt good to be part of a community again. On weekends, they worked in their garden together, planting flowers and vegetables, their hands in the dirt, the sun warm on their backs. One Saturday afternoon, as they were planting tomatoes, Patricia's phone rang. It was Agent Morrison. Just wanted to let you know, Morrison said. Sentencing happened yesterday. The executives got between 15 and 30 years. The politicians got 10 to 20. The judges were disbarred and sentenced to 8 years each. Patricia felt something release in her chest. And Keaton Hale, probation and community service. The judge said his cooperation and testimony warranted leniency. He's also been ordered to establish a scholarship fund for underprivileged students. $1 million annually for the next 20 years. What did he name it? Morrison paused. The Elias Carter Memorial Scholarship. He wanted to honor the man who started all of this. After the call ended, Patricia told Amina about the sentencing. They sat on the back porch, watching the sun set over their small yard. Do you think Dr. Carter would be proud of us? Amina asked. I think he'd be proud of you. You were so brave, baby. I was just trying to help you. I know. That's what makes it so brave. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to birds settling in for the night, feeling the cool evening air on their skin. 6 months later, on a warm September morning, Amina walked into her new classroom for the first day of 7th grade. She wore jeans and a t-shirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, a backpack slung over her shoulder. Emma waved from across the room. "Amina, sit with us." Amina smiled and joined her friends. The teacher started taking attendance. When she called Amina's name, Amina raised her hand like everyone else. Just another student. Just another day. But that evening, when Amina got home, she found a letter waiting for her. It had been forwarded through several federal offices before reaching their new address. The return address simply said, Cahill. Amina opened it carefully. Inside was a single handwritten page. "Dear Amina, I don't know if you'll remember me. I'm the man who laughed at you in the bank that day. The man who thought he knew everything and actually knew nothing. I wanted you to know that I testified at the trial. I told the truth about the people I'd worked with, the corners I'd cut, the questions I'd refused to ask. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, and the most important. I also wanted you to know that I've established a scholarship fund in Dr. Carter's name. Every year, 20 students who might not otherwise afford college will get a full ride. It's not enough to make up for my mistakes. Nothing could be, but it's a start. You changed my life, Amina. You probably don't realize how much. But in one afternoon, you taught me more about integrity and courage than I learned in 50 years of making money. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're happy. I hope you're getting to be the kid you always should have been. You deserve the world, and I hope you get it. With respect and gratitude, Keaton Hale." Amina read the letter twice. Then she folded it carefully and put it in her desk drawer. She thought about responding, but she didn't know what to say. How do you respond to someone who was cruel but then changed? Someone who was wrong but then made it right? Maybe someday she'd write back. Or maybe the letter itself was enough. Proof that people could change. Proof that one moment of courage could ripple outward in ways no one could predict. That night at dinner, Patricia asked about her day. Amina told her about her classes, about the project she was working on in science, about the upcoming basketball tryouts. Normal things. Wonderful things. After dinner, they cleaned up together, washing dishes side by side at the sink. Through the kitchen window, they could see their garden thriving, the tomatoes ripening on the vine, the flowers blooming in bright colors. "Mama," Amina said quietly, "are we really safe now?" Patricia dried her hands and pulled her daughter close. "Yes, baby, we're really safe. And we can stay here. We don't have to move again. We can stay as long as you want." Amina leaned into her mother's embrace, feeling the steady beat of her heart, breathing in the familiar scent of her skin. For the first time in her life, Amina understood what it meant to be home. Not a place with locked doors and security cameras. Not a government facility or a safe house. Just a small house in a quiet neighborhood, where a mother and daughter could plant tomatoes and do homework and dream about tomorrow without fear. Where a girl who once walked barefoot into a bank asking for help could finally just be a girl. And that was everything. When you see someone society has dismissed, someone the world has overlooked, do you laugh like Keaton Hale did, or do you pause to wonder what story they're carrying that you can't see? If this tale of courage, redemption, and unexpected justice moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that remind us why we should never judge a book by its cover.